Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com, coming to you live from CoG Studios on Thursday, May 30th, ahead of the LA Galaxy Sunday matchup with the New England Revolution. That's right, one more game before the international break. We've got a bunch of news to get to, including going to start out with the LA Galaxy's 2-0 win over Sporting Kansas City, something they haven't done since 2007. We'll dive into all of that so that we can get all the details, give you our analysis of that game, and then get you over to the Galaxy News before getting you ready for the Sunday game. That's right, Sunday 7:30 p.m., not a Sunday 5 p.m., not a Sunday 2 p.m., not a Sunday afternoon, not a leisurely stroll. You're going to be there late, and it's a school night. Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for the New England Revolution. All right, in order to help me out tonight, he's back. You missed him. He's wearing something sexy like you wanted him to. Wearing the away kit. It is the hammer himself, Eric Vieira. Hey, Eric. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. I'm glad to be back. You know, this is an exciting time coming off a win. Galaxy have a winning record in their Night Navy kits, so this is good. A lot to be excited about this Sunday, so glad to be back. So good things to talk about right now.
Yeah, a lot of good things to talk about, and a lot of good things for the Galaxy. They finish out May, I think, is really the biggest point of this. Is they finish out May. They survived just barely. Four losses, which was tough to sort of stomach as they were rolling up there. I'd say 3 of those probably schedule-related whenever you really look at it.
That's fair.
One of them self-inflicted, and then whenever you finally break it down and look at it, you get 2 wins to end, and 2 road wins, by the way, which are almost worth more than 3 points. I think if you win on the road, you should get like 3.5 points or something.
Especially if it's a Friday to a Sunday or to a Wednesday. So, I mean, short week, too.
Yeah,
you got to factor that in.
Short week. Guillermo Barros-Schelotto and the guys, of course, departed for Kansas City on Tuesday afternoon, thinking it was going to be easy.
What
no
a
problems.
saga.
I was going to say, all of that stuff was a saga. When you go back and look at it, it literally, you go into it and you say, okay, so it took them basically 22 hours to go from L.A. to Kansas City with a stop in St. Louis, and there were some nasty thunderstorms. The meteorologist in me was watching this stuff. Whenever they took off, I actually had reached out to the LA Galaxy, and I said, hey, you know, you need to let me know if like things are going to go sideways on this, because there's bad weather in KC. So
text me when you land.
Yeah,
is that what you, did you hit it with one of those?
Yeah, I was like,
I want to make sure you get home safe.
So when you're there, why don't you just share your location? Just share your location with me.
Drop that pin.
That's right. So I was sort of doing it, and I got the update. It was like, oh, hey, okay, their flight was 55 minutes late, leaving. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. Okay, cool, no problems.
Or maybe it was intentional to avoid, you know, any tornadoes or storms or anything.
Yeah, we'll see if that. No, it wasn't. It was just normal delay. It was normal afternoon.
It was LAX.
I'm going to tell you something, and I don't know if people know this. If you don't want to fly on delayed flights, you leave in the morning. Right? If you leave first thing in the morning,
it's like a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, they're not going to be late.
Yeah, if you have a 4 o'clock doctor's appointment, you're going to see the doctor at 5:30.
Exactly. Yeah. So same deal with airplanes. But anyway, so they leave about 55 minutes late. They go, and then after I got done working out, I sort of came and checked out and some things. I'm like, that says they're in St. Louis. That doesn't seem right. And then so we started getting reports that the LA Galaxy had indeed landed in St. Louis because there was a large tornado that actually touched down very near Children's Mercy Park. In fact, somebody said that the park itself was lined up for a direct hit there for a little while, and it just sort of scraped by. So they did that. Ended up going to St. Louis, which is only, I think, 250 miles away. I mean, it's not far away.
It's closer than you would think.
It was like getting a bus and drive, right? I mean, that was one of the things.
Probably was an option, or at least was thrown out there. But I think after it passed, weather seemed pretty clear.
Well, apparently they were given the option of going to sit at the airport for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and wait for the flight to then be able to take them into Kansas City. And they said, we don't know if that's going to happen because there was still weather, and so there was unknown weather. So they're like, we're going to go get a hotel. So everybody went and got a hotel for this game. I think they stayed at the Radisson.
Probably.
An Embassy Suites, maybe?
I know Tomas Hilliard Arce was getting his push-ups in.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a little social media follow there. So anyway, so you had that, and then they ended up, what we then found out was to be chartering from St. Louis to Kansas City. Now, here's...
I was going to say, does that count as a charter?
It does not. Thank you for asking, Eric. Thank you for asking. I reached out to the LA Galaxy and was told it does not count as a charter. So the LA Galaxy have not used it. It was basically because it was outside of the team's control, and basically in order to make sure the game still happened and everything was going to work out correctly.
Yeah, forced their hand. It's not like they wanted the St. Louis to Kansas City, that's the one you save your charter for. So that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
They didn't have to burn one of their designated charters.
So they have 4. You're allowed 4 total. They've used 1, so they have 3 remaining, and this one did not count to make it 2. And by the way, that has to be like a 40-minute flight or something like that. It's not far.
It's like a here to Sacramento type of deal.
Yeah, I think it's way shorter than that.
The Vegas trip.
There you go. Phoenix, 45 minutes.
There you go.
Okay.
Done and done.
And Phoenix is like 300 and something miles away,
Okay.
so it's closer.
Yeah, in the neighborhood.
So anyway, so you look at that. The Galaxy get there about 7 hours before kickoff. I also think it was pretty smart that once you figure out the charter here, Eric, you also figure out that you should probably let the guys sleep in a little bit.
Yeah.
Let them rest a little bit. I know, it's game day. It's game day. Just take your time, get it up. So they get up, they hop on the plane, they come in, they fly 7 hours, they go to the hotel basically to drop their bags and do some stuff there, and then they head to the stadium. There were a lot of people who were thinking this was really going to affect them, and I was sitting there going, it doesn't seem like this is going to hurt. It's not like they spent all day at the airport.
Because they still got a good night's sleep the night before because they stayed in St. Louis. I don't know if there was any truth to the rumor that Valdecantos had him running sprints in the aisles.
Right.
The day before.
Probably not true. But
that would have kept them warm, kept
would've.
them limber. But I think it probably affected their mentality because then they went in like this is a business trip. They didn't have time to really sit and think about it. They were distracted by the flights and the delays, so they really just had to go in, do their job, grab those 3 points, and get out of there. So I understand the fatigue part of it, and that could be something that might set them astray, but I think this showed a lot of mental fortitude that they were able to stay focused, keep their eye on the prize and treat this like a business trip.
I think the other interesting important part here is that you look at the Galaxy not traveling with Rolf Felcher, right? So that was sort of a last minute. Kevin Baxter was on top of that one, finding out that Rolf Felcher didn't travel. So he got injured apparently shortly before they were ready to depart training and head towards the airport.
So it wasn't the sprints in the aisle that sent him over the edge?
No, he didn't actually get to go. So he was gone. You knew no Diego Polenta was there. Julian Araujo. So basically all the right backs that you possibly could have at that point were gone. So there was some question marks about whether or not the Galaxy, who they would start and how that would look and all sorts of fun stuff with that. So whenever you go and you eventually look at the starting lineup, it made a bunch of sense in a lot of ways. I just think maybe people were overthinking a little bit whenever they were like, they're going to go to 3 in the back. I'm like, they're not going to 3 in the back.
You don't change it that drastically, especially on the road. You try to keep it as comfortable as possible. It seemed like the only option was truly to put Dave Romney in there, and that's what we saw.
Yeah, you saw Dave Romney in there. I like how you go and look at how MLS says that they lined up, and you're like, come on. So MLS sort of showed them in a 4-3-3, and that's not how they set up. Basically, you had Zlatan Ibrahimovic at the top, and they talked about I'm going to be fully admit this. Watching on TV is always difficult to really feel like you understand where players are and where they're positioned. And get the spacing because you don't get to see the field the whole time. Whenever you're watching in person, you get to see the field the whole time, and you can sort of get a feel for where players are lingering and where they were. I'll tell you this, that during this first half, Dave Romney played in the center. Dave Romney played on the right. Gonzalez played in the center. He moved out left whenever Shelvik would move up. Leggett was in the center. He was on the left. He was on the right. Kitchen was in the center. He was on the right. So somebody actually asked, they're like, can anybody tell me where Perry Kitchen played? And I said in the good spot because apparently that's where it was. And
he played where he was supposed to play.
Apparently that's how it worked. But Ibrahimovic talked after the game how they played with 2 strikers to sort of start out, and I imagine that the 2 strikers were Ibrahimovic and Antuna.
That's what it seemed like at the beginning because Antuna was putting the pressure on the goalkeeper. So if that was the game plan, then it would appear that Antuna was the other one who you would have paired up top with them. But the only thing with these starting lineups, and of course, you have to put out a starting lineup, you have to put out the graphic on where exactly they're starting, but these are all just starting positions because once they start playing, and you just described it, players start shifting, especially, Sporting Kansas City, they were kind of coming at the Galaxy from all directions, so that's going to shift the players around too. So, interesting thing, when you look at these lineups and it shows, Kitchen on the right side of it, he's not really going to stay on that right side. He's going to go and shift wherever he needs to make those stops. So these starting lineups, the graphics are really just a starting point, and then players are going to drift. And we saw that because Antuna was up top to start, and then he played a little more out wide. As the game progressed, he was really utilizing the wing. So, these are starting points, and the Galaxy got comfortable in certain areas once they got going.
Now here's the thing. All right, now I don't often get to beat my own chest. I don't, because I'm very rarely ever right.
I was going to say the guy with his own microphone, his own studio. You're not going to I don't like any of the credit.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I don't like to hear my own voice, but here we go.
I'm just saying, if somebody has to be given credit for this game, it's probably me.
Oh, fair.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I think maybe you thought it was going to be
Perry Kitchen, Daniel Steres, maybe GBS.
No, none of those guys. No, it's probably me. And it's only because they played my game plan to perfection.
Yeah.
It was absolutely everything that I wanted and what I had talked about on Monday, which was, you're playing a team that played on Sunday. They played a very, very difficult game on Sunday. They don't have any subs. They have tons of injuries. They have no ability to rotate. And Peter Vermees, Sporting Kansas City's head coach, talked about it afterwards, how he said there were 2 guys out there who shouldn't have even started because they were injured. And I don't have a choice, and I have to have them play.
Depth was a concern for them the whole way.
Yeah.
And it's been all month. Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the month. When we were predicting May, we said, I hope they're all still hurt. And, Kansas City had a lot of guys hurt coming into this game.
And they had more guys hurt during the game again. So, again, it's just them. I think that Sporting Kansas City, this may be a lost season for them just because of the injuries and how far behind they are. But at the same time, you still feel like they're a good team.
And with 7 playoff spots, they have the talent. It's just a matter of catching fire at the right time.
Yeah, and they need to get healthy. That's it. That's the only thing Sporting needs right now is to be able to actually field a full team and put one out there. But what you saw in the first half was a dominant Sporting team. Dominant in possession.
Yep.
Dominant in chances, because they definitely, I think, got the lion's share of the chances there. But what you saw from the LA Galaxy was what they wanted. They were sitting back.
Survival.
It was like, get through this. Get through this. Let's see if we can work. If you can work something off of Ibrahimovic and Antuna through Fabio Alvarez. If you can make that happen and make that work, good. Make it happen and make it work. But do not stretch yourselves. Do not get outside. Do not overchase. Do not overcompensate for anything. Stay back at all costs.
And I think the Perry Kitchen start is what maybe raised a few eyebrows. You say, why are you going to sit Corona and start Perry Kitchen? But I think the game plan that GBS had here is he flipped it, because normally you would see Perry Kitchen maybe come in a second half to kind of slow things down, shut another team down, but he flipped it. Knowing that Kansas City was playing on short rest, you put him in the beginning, survive that first half, shut them down, and then with the understanding that Kansas City is going to get tired, and eventually you have a lion up front and Antuna who's going to have the wheels on the side and make things happen. So I think they kind of had an inverse game plan. Instead of getting an early lead and then bringing in someone like Kitchen to kill off the game, they brought Kitchen in early to survive, and then in the second half is when they turned it on.
I mean, if you look at the possession on this, the LA Galaxy had just shy of 35% possession, which means that you had 65% possession, over 65% possession by Sporting Kansas City. In the 5-minute intervals,
I was going to say, that's one of my favorite graphics is the 5-minute interval possession, and it's just all light blue for Sporting Kansas City. The Galaxy, I think, for 10 minutes had possession, and then the other 80 minutes, it was all SKC.
And they barely had possession in those 10 minutes whenever you look at it. But I'll say this, you started to notice Sporting getting tired in that last 10 minutes of the first half. And you were like, they had a couple chances for counterattacks, and they started to run, and they slowed up, and they didn't have the people following. They didn't have the bodies following. And so you could see it. So seeing 0-0, and I read Twitter. I saw everybody just angry at everybody for no reason whatsoever. But whenever you look at this, you could see that the Galaxy were onto something in terms of they were waiting for them to get tired. And the Galaxy, then you look at the bench that the Galaxy had, which is the crazy part, because for most of the year, I think people have been saying the Galaxy don't have a strong bench and don't have it. But if you look on the bench, the offensive options they had on the bench, Chris Pontius, Efrain Alvarez, Emil Cuello, Joe Corona, and Emmanuel Boateng. Those are all basically offensive subs.
Yep.
And so whenever you can do that, you can sort of understand, okay, you had the ability to do something that Sporting did not have the ability to do, which was, put in some offensive subs that could possibly make a difference. So you had guys like Matt Beasler, who had to come in, and he was injured.
That seemed like a surprise. It seemed like they weren't expecting to put him in.
No, they weren't, and so they went through some things. So you get through that first half, it's 0-0. I'm basically, saying, great, I think that's a perfect first half. That's what you want. At a place, by the way, the LA Galaxy hadn't won since 2007.
It's a fun stat. They technically hadn't won at that place.
They had never won at Children's. They had never won in the state.
Yeah.
Because that state is obviously because they used to play at Arrowhead Stadium, which is in Kansas City, but in Missouri.
Yep.
Right? And so on the other side of the river is where Sporting plays now, and that's in Kansas. And so they had never won in Kansas, which is just fun.
It's a good stat.
It's a fun little thing. So you look at that. I mean, they hadn't even beaten Sporting Kansas City since 2015.
Yeah.
So even if you just go to straight up wins, you look at all this. So 0-0 at halftime, you're like, wait a minute.
It's a success.
Wait a minute. You're in this game. And then it's just all about the second half. They come out in a different formation. They drop back into something they're a little more comfortable with. They went up with the lone striker, and this is for all those people who say, you have to have 2 strikers up top. Zlatan needs another striker. No.
Don't disparage our listeners,
No,
Joshua.
Zlatan doesn't need another striker playing with him, but he does need some support from the midfield.
Yes.
And that's what Fabio Alvarez.
And you saw that. And Fabio, with those first 2 games without Zlatan, you saw sparks of something there. The passes from him seemed a little bit heavy. They seemed like they were a little bit off. But it reminded me of Polenta. When Polenta started the season, he had his mistakes. He had his rough beginnings. But you saw something there that he's going to be a good player. And I saw that with Fabio as well. The passes weren't connecting. It wasn't 100%, but you see the spark of something. And getting this first game under his belt with Zlatan, you can tell they already have good chemistry. It's still not connecting 100%, and they still got an assist on a goal. But, you can see that this is going to be a partnership that's going to be key moving down the season because they're only going to get better the more games they get together.
Yeah, and by the way, I love that every time I say Perry Kitchen, in the chat room, everybody's
Kevin.
Yelling, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's Kevin Kitchen.
Good old Kev. Yeah, I said I was going to call him Kevin, but, he had a good game. I'm going to show a little respect.
Show a little respect for Kevin. Tip the hat. All right. So anyway, Kev Kitchen out there. 2 assists, 2 hockey assists. But however you say it, he started those breaks, both of them. He should have had another one.
Yeah, and that was the funny thing too is if you follow Instagram and you see what's going on, Zlatan made his famous played those drums post, and Kitchen said you should have had another goal. So Kitchen's even on him, on social media.
That was good. That was great. It's always nice whenever you have a good enough game where you can poke the line.
Exactly.
You know. Zlatan said after the game he was talking to Spectrum Sportsnet's Megan Risa, and he says, if I was just a little bit younger, I probably would have scored that goal, So he said his legs felt a little heavy, and he said he didn't know whether it was because he was a little out of shape or whether it was because he was just 37, because it's one of those.
A little bit of both. Little column A, a little column B. He did have 2 games off, so he maybe wasn't as crisp as he's been in the past, and that's not really... Well, I guess that should be his forte, is bringing a breakaway and being able to put it away. But some of the passes that he was missing on, that's been kind of a weak spot. If you're going to say Zlatan has a weak spot, it's that was making those passes. So he didn't look very crisp there. So he got his goal. So we can't be too mad at him.
No, he did. He should have had his goal a little earlier, but he got his goal. Bottom line,
that's very Zlatan to not get the easy goal, but to make the hard one work.
But the assist that he gets too. I mean, Perry Kitchen with that long cross towards the back post. Again, I mean, you see what Zlatan likes to do, and it's more evident in this game maybe than any other time, which is Zlatan likes to go to the back post and peel off, right? And so you're going to post him up. It's like you're throwing it down in the key. You're going to post him up to that outside, and then he wants to be able to turn with the ball and do something. In this particular case, he goes and he heads that ball back across, and Fabio Alvarez. By the way, the one thing that I think have always said for the Galaxy and what they're missing is the trailing runner.
Fabio is that guy.
Fabio Alvarez. That's all. So
yes.
I like to see the Galaxy playing well. I don't often yell and scream whenever it happens, but that play right there, good. That was everything that I was saying. If they just do this, they're going to score goals. And that was one of the things that they were doing. How many crosses did they have in this game?
You want me to look that up?
No, I actually know.
Okay, go for it. How many?
11.
11.
Is that the least amount of crosses the Galaxy have ever put in? No, it's not 30. Yeah, it's not 35.
Yeah.
It's 11.
Yeah.
They were selective. They also didn't have the ball very much, so it was kind of hard for them to cross the ball.
You can't cross when you don't have the ball. I think that's rule number 1. But to your point, where Zlatan, in catching that trailing runner, there was a play, I believe it was in the first half, where he played the ball in the box into space and no one was there, and he kind of did his Zlatan thing where he was frustrated that no one ran into it. But that's what he's going to do. He's going to do what he's supposed to do, play it into space. There should be a runner there. If there wasn't, that's unfortunate. But people who think he's just looking out for him and trying to shoot at every opportunity. Yes, he's a striker. He's known for scoring goals. He's going to try to score, but he's also going to try to set people up when it's an obvious scoring opportunity. So you see that not just on the play with the goal, but he's trying to set people up on the ground as well earlier.
Yeah, he is. So I mean, all of that is really good. Okay, so the standout for me was Perry Kitchen and just his play. Now, one of the reasons that his play, he had 3 stops inside the box. Inside the box, Perry Kitchen had 3 stops. It was him tracking the late runner that you're like, yes, thank you.
Well, and that's what Jonathan Dos Santos has been doing so well throughout the majority of the season. So to have Kitchen come in, and we talked about this also on previous shows, where the drop-off from Dos Santos to Carrasco was a bit harsh. So you assume that the drop-off from Dos Santos to Kitchen was going to be a drop-off, but he was doing a lot of the same things, a lot of the dirty work that Jonathan does. Kitchen was doing the same thing. He was getting physical, roughing guys up, dispossessing the other team. So you saw exactly, this is the Perry Kitchen from the beginning of last season where we saw a lot of bright spots. We saw that in this game.
Yeah, and some good movement. Joe Corona comes in for Fabio Alvarez, so then you're able to bring, again.
Yeah, Joe Corona off the bench.
Joe Corona off the bench. Now, did you see, I don't know if anybody saw, you saw the tape on the back of his neck?
You couldn't miss it.
Yeah, it was the sports tape that was sort of creeping up his spine there. Jonathan Dos Santos had mentioned in, I think, one of his social media
posts that the neck.
that the neck was sore for Joe Corona, which may have been why he didn't start. But now you also look at that and say, Joe Corona's rested now for Sunday for the most part. He only played a couple minutes, so he should be okay. I mean, you look at Chris Pontius played a couple minutes, so
Pontius is going to be good to go.
He's
if
ready.
You need him.
Emmanuel Boateng played a minute.
Yes.
So he's ready to go whenever. So you have these options now to rotate on Sunday against a team that is struggling, and so you have that depth that you can sort of go to. And I don't know that they necessarily need to go to that depth.
I was going to say, before the international break, and we'll talk about the game preview later, but I think before the international break, this is your time. If you have an A lineup ready, you play the A lineup. There's no need in resting guys.
There's
unless
some of
you
that.
want to play nice for the guys going on international duty.
There's some of that, but here's the other part of it, right? Is that, rest afterwards is great, but it doesn't necessarily recover you for the game if you played 3 days previous, right? The fact that they're getting 3 days, the fact that they got back on, Galaxy played on Wednesday, got back on Thursday. So they had the whole day Thursday off, basically. Yes. Friday, as we're recording, so they got back this morning is my guess. That's usually how that works. Yeah. And then Friday, they're probably going to do a regen session where it's pretty light and nothing. Yeah. And then Saturday's basically a walkthrough. There's no training going on this week. I mean, there's very little. Rest. You might do a little stretching. You might do a little light jogging. Valdecantos will make you do the beep test. And then, away you go before the game.
Say, get the massage gun out there. Just,
That's right.
Everyone needs one of those.
Everybody needs to have that. But, I mean, that's what you see. I mean, I thought Daniel Steres played really well.
I thought for me, when we're talking about Kitchen obviously was a standout to me. You put Steres in there, saving a potential goal. He's been excellent back there, and this game was no different.
Yeah. Let's see. So Steres played. Gonzalez played good. Romney played good.
We're going to shout out Bingham. He made saves where he needed to make them.
5 saves. So he follows up a 6-save night against Orlando with a 5-save night against Sporting Kansas City, and a couple of those were nasty saves.
The shots that SKC had that came 25, 30 yards out, those you give them those shots because if a team wants to make those are low low risk if you're the team allowing those shots, but they were on target and he had to do work, and he made those saves when they counted. If there's a knock on Bingham for me, it's some of the clearances out of the box where he kicks the ball out of bounds. He doesn't really connect with the player. It's connecting that goalkeeper play and transitioning into the offense. That's the knock for me. But as far as shot stopping and playing back there, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. I mean, I know the guy who receives a ton of hate is Jorgen Skjelvik all the time, and he's deserved it on most occasions. I mean, that's just the thing. But he was going up against Johnny Russell.
Yeah, that's tough. And Johnny Russell, served him his lunch a couple times too, but he survived.
He survived, and he did a good job late in the game. Whenever Russell was tired of just guiding him out of bounds a bunch and pushing him towards the end, I like that.
And that point with survival, when you talk about Kansas City being tired, they had some really good opportunities where they had some terrible shots, and that is fatigue, tired legs, not being able to get a decent shot. So they were kind of going for the desperation move. So even though Sporting Kansas City outshot the Galaxy, they outpossessed them, I don't walk away from that game saying that they were gonna win that game when we totally stole it. I feel like the LA Galaxy executed a game plan and they did what they were supposed to do. I don't think Kansas City could walk away saying we should have won that game because the Galaxy did their job.
And can we understand that unless you're some sort of super team, which I don't think is really a thing in Major League Soccer as much as it is around other places, that when you go on the road in Major League Soccer, you play differently.
Yes,
you're not going to hold possession. You're going to look to counter. You're going to look to absorb pressure, and then you're going to try to find your spots. And you go out there, you smash and grab it, and you run to the plane with your 3 points as fast as you can.
Secure the bag.
Orlando was more of a smash and grab than this game. This game was much more methodical in terms of how they did it.
Stole the words out of my mouth. This is what happens when we keep coming on the show together. I was going to say that was a methodical victory by GBS and the team.
And so, I mean, if you're looking at that in terms of what do you I think people were saying, well, they didn't play very well against. I disagree. I think you played it almost exactly the way that you kind of. The first half was hit and miss more.
Yeah.
But the second half, something the Galaxy have struggled with mightily, was perfect. It was exactly as it should have been played.
That's why, to me, and I go back to what I said in the beginning, they flipped the game plan. They played their second half first, and then they played their first half second, generally how they've played all season.
Yeah, and so I think if you're looking, you look at form, right, and how the Galaxy are playing, and you saw, okay, so Colorado game, they lose to Colorado, but they played well in that game.
Yes.
They don't play particularly well against Orlando, but they get the win. They played well enough to steal 3 points, and get out. Sporting Kansas City was taking advantage of a tired team. What are you looking? But it was the way they went about taking advantage of a tired team.
And you can say they were tired, but Kansas City has talent. And you saw what they did against Seattle, who's been setting the league ablaze, and they handled their business against Seattle. So this wasn't, yes, they were a tired team, but this is a good team that the Galaxy went out and beat on the road.
Yeah. And the record won't show it. Nothing in this. If you're just looking at the box score,
you don't get bonus points or extra points for it. But this was, a good victory.
It was what you needed to do to sort of close it out. So when you look at this, then with the 6 games, the Galaxy averaged 1 point per game. That's not horrible whenever you figure that 4 of those games are on the road, and that you played 6 games in the span of 1 month. All of those things really are sort of stacked against the Galaxy. It's just, I think everybody would agree that 9 points would have been better than the 6.
And going back to our preview, when we previewed May, I said 8 or 9 points, 9 or 10 points. That would have been the goal. So they fell short of an ideal road trip. But to put it in perspective, if the Galaxy would have tied all 6 games and gotten 1 point every game, would you have felt as good about this team as the winning the last 2 games? I feel, you feel better with the momentum coming off 2 wins than you would off of 6 draws.
Yeah.
Not that a team is likely to get 6 draws unless you're New York City, but I think they're chock full of draws. But
yeah, they are.
You feel better about coming off a victory than you do if the team were to draw a whole bunch.
This is a step forward in terms of what the Galaxy are trying to do. They were trying to close out the last 3 games before the international break with all wins. They have 1 game left against New England, who's struggling, who has to travel all the way across the country. The Galaxy on shorter rest, though. This is almost the reverse Sporting Kansas City whenever you look at it. But the Galaxy have a couple more days than really Sporting had, and the type of game they played was a lot different. The Galaxy didn't do as much running in the Sporting KC game.
Yeah, they sat back and let it.
They really did.
Yeah.
So unlike Sporting, who had to sprint for 90 minutes against Seattle in that game. So we'll draw some comparisons as we go. Now let's go to news. We have a couple different items here for news as we look ahead to the upcoming month and all the things that's going to encompass. The first thing that we have is the League's Cup. That's right.
The League's Cup.
The League's.
It's here.
It's woo, yay. We talked about it. We told you who the teams were. We didn't know schedules at the time, but we sort of were anticipating what some of the schedules could be. The LA Galaxy are officially part of the League's Cup, which will host MLS teams versus Liga MX teams. There's nothing good news about this. I don't know how else to say it. This is one of the most blatant money grabs that Major League Soccer has ever done.
I was just going to say, this has cash grab written all over it, because you have the CONCACAF Champions League, which is where you'd see these teams normally face off. Obviously, that hasn't gone well in MLS's favor. Then you have the Campeones Cup, where you have the MLS champ versus the Liga MX champ, and then so now you're throwing in the League's Cup, and this is the way this is blatant is because all the games are hosted in MLS Stadium, so it's Liga MX is popular in North America. It's popular, one of the most viewed sports in the United States. The ratings are off the charts, so they say, come to Dignity Health Sports Park. Come watch, Club Tijuana. Come to SeatGeek Stadium. Come watch Cruz Azul. You're basically inviting, people who enjoy Liga MX to come and drop their money in their stadiums. That's all this feels like, because of the way the teams were chosen on invite only and the way it was kind of shoehorned in here. It feels like a pretty blatant cash grab.
The teams from the MLS again are the LA Galaxy, Chicago Fire, Houston Dynamo, and Real Salt Lake. Houston Dynamo said, and after this was announced, and their coach, is that Cabrera? Wilmer Cabrera?
Yes.
Yeah, Wilmer Cabrera comes out and says, this is going to be a really great opportunity for our Rio Grande Valley guys, which is their USL team.
Well, I like that. Call it like it is.
He's like, this is going to be really great for our USL team.
I was going to say, Ethan Zubak, this is your time to shine.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you look at this. This is going to be bench players. This is going to be Galaxy 2 players. This is nothing. If you're an LA Galaxy fan, you want the LA Galaxy to do well this year, then you hope that they lose the first game.
Lose the first game and they're done.
And you're done. And you don't play anymore.
Are you going to talk about this is sandwiched in between 2 pretty critical games as well?
Yeah.
Because we have Friday, July 19th is against, the first El Tráfico against LAFC. Then they play Tuesday versus Cholos for the League's Cup. And then they go away to Portland, who Portland's been playing very well. So LAFC and Portland, those are 2 important MLS league matches. And so to sandwich this in between, to put any resources and any effort in this, unless there's kind of some backroom handshake deal that some starter has to play, you know, cough, Zlatan, if that's the whole reason why they picked this team, then maybe, you know, they can get out of it with 45 minutes or something. But these are two crucial games that it's interrupting.
You want to end this Leagues Cup before it even gets started? Start Zlatan Ibrahimovic and watch him get injured in this game.
Yeah, against a Liga MX player who's looking to prove themselves. That'll be nice.
Yeah, that's and this isn't the CONCACAF Champions League. This isn't the CCL.
That's the frustrating thing. What are the stakes here?
Nothing.
Prize money?
No. Yeah,
not
right.
really.
What? I go unless you're going to talk the $5 or $6 million, you're not moving the needle anywhere, and that money can be applied directly to the salary cap for some reason. No, it doesn't work. LA Galaxy will play Jolos on July 23rd. It is the first games will be played on the 23rd and the 24th. Then it goes to the next if you win
August 20th.
August 20th, and then eventually September 18th.
Yeah, I think they should schedule the final one day before MLS Cup, just in case.
That's a great
any
idea.
of these teams go far, that they're nice and fatigued in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's this is one of those. This just you sign, you don't care. This is like if you could get other teams' players to play this game for you, you would vote the other team. This is like the All-Star game.
All-Star game,
which by the way, I should remind everybody, All-Star voting is open. And if you were doing as from the inception of this podcast, from the very first year we ever started this podcast, we told you what you should do with your All-Star votes, and that is find your biggest rivals. Vote them into the All-Star game as much as possible. Do not put your own players in there.
Have a lot of players available. You know, some guys up by the Bay Area have some players available. Put all those guys in. Put all those guys.
Chris Wondolowski needs to come to the All-Star game. That's
Chris Wondolowski. Don't get me started.
I won't. We haven't mentioned it on this podcast. It's not a thing.
And we won't. We're moving on.
So anyway, so that's what you have with the Leagues Cup. The Liga MX teams, by the way, Club America, Cruz Azul, Tigres, and then Tijuana, as we said. Let's see. The other news that just came out today is the U.S. Open Cup draw, the fourth round. Now, I have mixed emotions about the U.S. Open Cup. I enjoy the...
You don't get wrapped up in the cup sets and the fever of the cup?
They're fun.
It is fun.
It is fun to watch.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching Las Vegas Lights get knocked out of the cup.
The irony and kind of the fun thing about this is the fun part of the U.S. Open Cup is that now the fun's over. Now that you're bringing the MLS sides, and now it gets kind of down to business. But the fun part is watching your Orange County FCs make a run. You know, watching your Academica Turlocks make a run.
The NPSL, right? I mean, this is they call themselves a semi-pro league, a semi-pro team. This is more of an amateur team.
It's an amateur side, truly.
Yeah, so this is, the LA Galaxy have drawn Orange County FC, which is the best draw that the Galaxy get if you want them to advance in this tournament.
Yes.
So basically they were put in a pot with Orange County FC, Real Salt Lake, LAFC, and the Galaxy in there, and the Galaxy drew OCFC. And then apparently it goes to the round of 16 where it gets mixed back up again. So you won't necessarily play the winner of the RSL LAFC match. Although having an El Tráfico in the Open Cup could be interesting.
And I was having that conversation this morning before the draw. They said, is it possible to get the fourth round matchup in El Tráfico? But it just seemed like OCFC wasn't going to travel to Salt Lake. They were going to get one of the LA-based teams. It just, I don't know the magic behind it.
Eric, these are all blind draws, so there's no way that could have
But it never seems to work out that way. FC Golden State Forest just happens to always, or we get El Maquina. We always end up with these teams that are local.
That was somebody while the draw was happening this morning on Twitter. There's some things, like it used to be that the Galaxy would go play in North Carolina. You knew they were going to North Carolina. It would be like you have to play the Railhawks, right? Now they're North Carolina FC, right? Stuff like that. And so somebody was saying, they were like, what are the chances Sacramento's going to play San Jose again, right? And everybody's like, it's going to happen, and then it ends up happening, and so it gets drawn that way. So you're in the fourth round right now. That game will happen on. Because, see, it would have been nice if I wrote it down.
June 12th. Wednesday, June 12th, 7:30.
I have it on my schedule down here.
Sorry.
It's fine. No.
I do some show prep, too.
Do your thing. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I'll read your tweet.
Yeah, go for it.
LA Galaxy to host Orange County FC in the fourth round of the U.S. Open Cup at the Track and Field Stadium on Wednesday, June 12th at 7:30 p.m.
Can I now say the bad takes on this, which are the faux outrage at the Galaxy possibly playing at the Track and Fields? How dare they?
This is one of those like the All-Star voting. We say this every year.
The integrity of the U.S. Open Cup is at bay here, Eric. That's not respectful to play at the track and
I
field stadium.
actually think the opposite. I think that's what makes it fun.
It is what makes it fun. You get to hear Zlatan Ibrahimovic yelling at people if he plays. Now,
I was going to say, you're going to...
I know. People are like,
Zlatan
what?
will not be at this game.
I disagree with that.
You think he's gonna...
I don't know. I think
Okay.
he'll be available to play. And one of the reasons is that it's in the middle of the international break.
I guess that's true.
There's nothing going on.
He's not going away.
No. So you don't have a game for 10 more days after that. So why not play some of these guys? Why not play some of your starters? You need them to stay. You don't want them to be rusty either.
Yeah.
So let them
I
go
think
out there.
when we saw this game last year, you saw a lot of G2 guys. You saw the first call up of some of these players, and so that's what you expect. But the international break does give it a different spin. I personally don't think you'll see Zlatan here, but maybe you'll see some Galaxy players, first team players in street clothes watching the game. But I think you'll mostly see a reserve side here.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to see heavily that, or it'll at least be the subs, right? You're going to get
this might be your Efrain Alvarez. This might be the game that he starts.
Juninho
is going to get in the minute. Yeah.
Who's been playing down with Galaxy 2, by the way. So he is getting minutes as people have asked, where's Juninho?
And that's one of the questions we'll talk about lineups too, is where does Juninho figure in this squad? And that's where he's rehabbing. He missed a lot of the training camp and getting warm and getting his legs. So him going down to G2 and getting those minutes, this is a good thing. He's getting playing time. It seems odd, to see Juninho on G2, but it's a good thing. It's where you're going to get your legs under you.
This is so. This is my sort of I don't know, wishy-washy take on the U.S. Open Cup. It's one of those things where you go out there and if you win your first game, that's cool. And you're sort of like, okay, how much effort did you have to put into winning your first game? Because hopefully it's none, right?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, you won the first game, cool.
Should be a given.
So then you go into the fifth round, which is the round of 16, which is scheduled around June 19th or so. So then you go in there, and again, it's going to be like, well, how much effort are you going to put in order to do this? I mean, if it happens on the 19th or, wherever it ends up being, and you have a game on the 22nd at FC Cincinnati, then, how much effort are you willing to put into it? And I think who are you playing?
And it's who you're playing and where are you drawn? Because I think if you're going away, if you happen to have to travel to this game, then maybe you don't put as much effort. But if you're home, it may not hurt to start your starters, and then you're going away to Cincinnati, who's bottom of the Eastern Conference. Maybe that's the game that you put your subs. So it all depends on who they draw and where they're playing them.
Yeah, I think Galaxy went to Portland in the fifth round last time, and they played them well.
They
actually
played at Portland, but lost that game. 1-0.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good game the Galaxy played. So that's the fifth round. Then you get in the quarterfinals around July 10th, semifinals around August 7th. The finals now. If you're in the final.
You go for the final.
I mean, if you're in the semifinals and you realize you're one game away from being able to go to U.S. Open Cup, and it starts to be like, okay, it's time to. What are we doing in the league? Who are we playing in the league?
And it's funny. We all kind of protest the U.S. Open Cup and why are we trying in this competition? But I remember a couple years ago when they had Chicago in the semifinal, and you could taste a victory, and then it all went sideways. At the end there. But once you get to that point, you win it. But I think we're looking past. Paul Caligiuri's side, the LA Galaxy connection, the fact that Paul Caligiuri is coaching this Orange County FC team, it brings an interesting wrinkle to it.
It's fun. I mean, and this Orange County side goes to Las Vegas Lights and Eric Winalda's team, and they smacked them.
Yeah, 3-3 in the 89th minute, and the game ended 5-3.
5-3. Good stuff. The cup set.
Cup set.
That's why it is fun.
Yeah.
All the games, by the way, available on ESPN Plus, right? So you can catch any U.S. Open Cup game on ESPN Plus. They're all streamed. All that. This game. It will be available on ESPN Plus. I don't see them blocking anything out. Nobody has the rights to it.
And I was going to say, you've already missed the fun part because we talked about if you're not a fan of local broadcasters from other teams, wait till you get first round U.S. Open Cup announcers. That's good times right there. So you've missed that part.
The away side doing it and shouting we with the whole time.
I think I did that about 4 or 5 times to start this show. So I get it.
There's a team from up north that is not in Major League Soccer who is possibly the worst at this, and I would sit there and just bang my head. I can't handle it. I can't watch USL games whenever they go play up there. It doesn't happen. So it's one of those things. So you have U.S. Open Cup coming up. Whether or not it gets taken seriously again is more about draw than anything else, and sort of where you are. And this has always been the case with the U.S. Open Cup. If you have home games, you have a better chance of winning.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you're drawn away, then you're not going to put that effort in it. But if you have a home game, you have some home cooking, you're always going to like your chances at home.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so that's that. The other little bit of information is that Rolf Felcher was officially named to the 23-man squad for Venezuela, so he is going to Copa America. Rolf Felcher injured right now with a leg strain, but apparently still called up and healthy enough to be able to maybe make that.
What that tells me is that the injury is not that serious, because if it was a serious injury and they made plans to have him be part of the 23, he would have to decline and say, I'm not going to be able to contribute. But the fact that he's going to be able to contribute in the next couple of weeks shows that this is an injury that, while it's unfortunate that he's out, it's something that he'll be able to bounce back from.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting. By the way, people have been asking about the treble. So the Galaxy going to win the treble now, and the treble includes
the Leagues Cup,
MLS Cup, Lamar Hunt, the U.S. Open Cup, and then of course the Leagues Cup.
The Leagues Cup.
Oh God, I hope the Galaxy. I mean, come on.
Leagues Cup champions.
Did
we get a star for that?
I want you get like a happy face that's a sticker.
You get a sticker.
You get a sticker for the Leagues Cup. No, it doesn't make sense to me in terms of what MLS. I get it. They're trying to grow a brand.
It makes sense. It's just we don't like it. We don't like the reason. It makes sense, in the fact that it makes dollars.
Does it make dollars though? Who's going to show up?
Well, we're going to find out.
Nobody. I'm already telling you.
And if it doesn't, then have fun watching the only ever Leagues Cup.
I'm really just upset that they play on July 23rd, which is my birthday, which means I now have to go work on that Tuesday.
Comes out.
And I'm like, I don't.
You have a personal grudge with the Leagues Cup.
It's live soccer, right? What do everybody likes live soccer.
You can do a lot worse.
You can, absolutely. Let's get over a little bit on the injuries and sort of the stuff that we don't know right now. Didi Traore, we haven't seen him basically since he's been quote unquote injured. We expect that perhaps he will be ready here in the next week or so. Whether he makes it for the game against New England is sort of up there. And we won't really get an update until Friday. Friday is when the media is going to be able to go out and ask questions. So we're recording on a Thursday. Friday morning, check Twitter, and you should see some updates from some reporters on that.
I was going to say June 12th versus Orange County FC seems like a Didi Traore game.
Didi has it circled.
Yep.
He's ready to go. Diego Polenta seems like Guillermo had mentioned that it looked like he was targeting the New England game for him to come back, but he also said looked like he was looking at the Orlando game before that. So, it's one of those that just slides a little bit as it comes back. So Diego Polenta could possibly be ready for the New England game. And again, that we'll find out more on Friday as that comes up. Romano Alessandrini out until September. You have Rolf Felcher right now who has a leg strain but was just called into the Venezuelan national team. So all of those things sort of combining, it looks like, for the most part, everybody should be fairly healthy.
The squad that you saw against Kansas City, that's the squad that should be available, with the one addition being Polenta. But that's a question mark, too, because you say if he needs the rest, are you going to bring him back and push it for one game and then take another 2-week break? If you're, depending on how you view New England, is this, do you give Polenta the night off and give him the full, month to recover?
Yeah, it's again. I mean, that's sort of going to be the thing.
Why
push it? Why push it now? You're still going to play some games. It looks like in that international break on the U.S. Open Cup side, so you have ways to work guys in. There's probably no rush right now. Let's get through some standings real quick just to get everybody updated, and then sort of look at the schedule real quick with the breaks. And then we have a whole bunch of questions that people wrote in and talked to us about. So I want to get to those before we get to the New England game. So still a bunch here to sort of get through. Standings right now, Western Conference still being driven by LAFC, 34 points, averaging 2.27 points per game, 15 games played, same as the LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy, though, back up to second in the Western Conference, second in the league, 28 points, 1.87 points per game, 15 games played, 9-5-1 so far. 21 goals for, 17 goals against. They're a +4 right now, which is a little under some of the teams around them.
Yeah.
But with the two shutouts that you've seen, the Galaxy just list back-to-back, the projection on that actually ends up being about 39 goals given up, so under 40 goals given up this season if they can keep it up.
Yeah, the goal differential might not be high, but the goals against isn't extremely high either, so that's where you take the trade-off. And the fact that they're still in second place, considering a 4-game losing streak, is impressive.
That's sort of was one of the things I was trying to flirt with a little bit on Twitter here, was trying to, what does that tell me about this? It tells me that everybody's playing a congested schedule and that you're getting no movement in the standings, really. Everything's staying the same because people are winning, people are losing, people are winning, people are losing.
And even when you go to the points per game rankings, the Galaxy are still third there. Houston Dynamo are above them, but they have 3 games fewer played.
That's going to be, and so they're in the Leagues Cup too. They have to play another game.
They're going to have to, and you think of that team, and you saw how the Galaxy matched up against them. You want to keep disrespecting Houston, but they seem to be getting results. But it seems like the other shoe's going to drop with that team eventually.
Here's the thing with Houston is that they're 1-3-0 on the road. The Galaxy are 3-3-1. So whenever you look at it, Houston hasn't played a bunch of road games, and they haven't won a bunch of road games. So
they're going to have to play those at some point.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. On the let's see, I was trying to see LA Galaxy in second, Seattle in third, Houston in fourth, Minnesota in fifth, Real Salt Lake in sixth, FC Dallas just above the line right now in seventh, San Jose Earthquakes, Vancouver Whitecaps, Portland Timbers, Sporting Kansas City, and Colorado Rapids are below the line. The two teams that are below the line there that I'm sort of keeping an eye on is Sporting and Portland, and I don't believe either of those teams are that bad. I feel like Houston is a pretender, even though whenever they came out, and I said that before, that they played the Galaxy very tough. Minnesota may be a pretender as well. So whenever you look at it, Real Salt Lake may not be. Real Salt Lake may be right where they're supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the way I'm looking at it. And you talked about Houston not playing a lot of games on the road, and eventually they're going to have to play those. Portland's the inverse. They haven't played any games at home, so eventually they're going to get, that's going to play in their advantage, and you're going to see them climb the standings.
They open on June 1st, I think.
June 1st?
I think so. Coming up on Saturday.
They have brand new turf.
Yep, brand new turf.
It's been that whole time renovating, and we put turf in.
There is rumors that there's going to be grass there here in the next couple of years.
There's grass in Portland. Trust me. Trust me.
I'm sure there is. If you're looking at the Eastern Conference, DC United currently leads 26 points, so the LA Galaxy would be leading by 2 points in the Eastern Conference if they were there. Philadelphia Union at 25, Montreal Impact at 24. Montreal is not that good of a team. This Eastern Conference
and Piatti
is
just went out injured.
Yeah, for 6 or 7 weeks
6
or
8
something.
weeks.
Yeah, that's not good for them. So Montreal at 24 points. Atlanta United has been clawing their way back up, 23 points. Red Bulls at 21 points. New York City FC, so both New York teams right on top of each other at 19 points with FC. And then Chicago Fire 18. It's Toronto, Columbus, Orlando, New England, and FC Cincinnati. So the Galaxy coming up will be playing at FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, two of these bottom dwellers in the East.
That's not too bad, playing the 11th and 12th right after each other. I mean, if you're looking for the Galaxy, you're looking for momentum, that's momentum. The last 2 wins, that's momentum. Keeping that rolling is good. Supporters Shield standings, as you know, LAFC at 34 points, LA Galaxy at 28 points. Then it goes Seattle, DC, Philadelphia, Montreal, and the Houston Dynamo. The very last team in last place, Colorado Rapids. Everybody remembers. Look, they only have 1 win this year.
They have 2.
No, they do have,
they have
2
2
wins.
wins. They went on a 2-game win streak.
That's crazy.
So it makes us feel a little bit better.
Crazy they are. Crazy.
Which, I forgot to link it in here, but someone posted the rectangle of parity. Every team has lost. And every team, you could put a rectangle together where every team has, beat each other, and it goes in a perfect rectangle there. So that's where the league is. Everyone has a leg up on everyone at some point.
It's scheduling. It's everything. There is too much parity. Not too much, but there is a lot of parity in Major League Soccer as it goes. All right.
It's that any given Sunday mentality.
As you're looking at the schedule right now, the Galaxy will play on June 2nd against New England. We're getting ready to preview that. Then they'll play in the U.S. Open Cup on Wednesday, June 12th, 7:30 p.m. at the Track and Field Stadium against Orange County FC. Then it is back to MLS play, at least for right now, although there could be another Open Cup game in there as well. But back to back to MLS play on Saturday, June 22nd, whenever they face Cincinnati FC. Or FC Cincinnati, excuse me.
I was going to say Foosball Club. Make sure you say it correctly.
Don't want to screw that one up. And then you have the San Jose Earthquakes on June 29th. I'm planning on going up to that game, so that'll be fun. Home to Toronto FC on Thursday, July 4th. And then Friday, July 12th against San Jose before you get to the July 19th game. And the chance to play LAFC in the first El Tráfico. We talked about the July 23rd game against Tijuana in the Leagues Cup. Can we come up with a different name for it? Because I don't like it.
Leagues Cup.
I want to be like, I want to not give it the proper due that it's supposed to be given.
We'll workshop that. We'll get our people on it.
That's a good idea. And then, of course, you have to close out the month of July against the Portland Timbers away, which is what we told you. You go way to Atlanta. So, yeah, there's some games coming up. That's really what you need to know. Let's get to some questions here before we get to our preview of the New England game. A bunch of questions. Went over to Reddit. Asked my friends over at Reddit. Listen, Reddit... I complain about Reddit on a regular basis because it has some rules that I don't necessarily agree with. But I think that in the LA Galaxy subreddit that we have, I think that we've figured out those rules and that it feels like it's much more, it's a happier place this
year.
How
to dance around the system. Because I feel like people in Reddit in general, those are your diehards of anything. Those are your hardcore internet people. So when you're going there, you're getting heavy concentration of whatever passion that they're going for.
All the people who were on Big Soccer kind of went to Reddit. That's kind of how it went. So you understand it. No, you do get some big passion. So anyway, let's get to some questions from them because I am an active participant in that group, and there's a bunch of good guys here, good guys and ladies on Reddit. Let's see. J.N. Lopez 21 says, possession. The 4-game losing streak, we dominated possession and lost. The last 2 wins, we barely had any. Are the Galaxy going away from prioritizing possession? And if they are, is that a good thing? Here, I'll give you my first answer, then you can explain. You can talk and say whatever you want. Is no, they're not getting away from possession. That's how you play on the road, and I think we sort of talked. That's how you play on the road. Do not expect possession on the road. Doesn't happen in Major League Soccer.
Can I say that it's TBD a little bit? What's working, the games that they've won, not having possession, you look at their roster and you say, well, who's going to be the one who possesses? And you don't really think of one player. You think of, when that triangle in the middle was working, they were holding good possession. But I don't know that they have one player who's going to dominate and really be that piece. So if you can use a counterattack and use speed and go against possession, I don't think that that's a negative with the Galaxy. If they choose to go that route, I think Zlatan and Tuna on the wing, that feeds itself well to going not having possession and still getting results. So I think it's a strategy that can work for the Galaxy, but I do agree with you that it's not their intention to go away from it.
No, I almost think it is their intention to go on the road.
Yeah.
You shouldn't try to hold possession on the road for the most part, unless you're playing a really bad team like Colorado.
Yeah.
And then things can happen.
But we saw what happened.
Yeah, I mean, and you see the Galaxy, and I think there were some road games early on that they did dominate possession, but that possession as you've seen this Galaxy team, they get tired in the second half, and it's a lot of times it's from that possession of not going anywhere and not doing anything.
Yeah, they're making the other team chase. They're doing all the work, but when they have nothing to show for it, that's where it comes back and bites them.
Yeah, so if you're able to do that, and that's how it goes. I think for the Galaxy is that. The Galaxy should not be at home. You shouldn't be one-dimensional. On the road, you can be one-dimensional. At home, it's okay. So you guys want to attack right now? Let's absorb some of this pressure.
And it's who's coming into town.
Yeah.
This team brings this formation, so we're going to come at them this way, and we're going to have the comfort and the ability to make these changes. On the road, you're kind of at the mercy of what's going on the road.
Well, and Wicked in the chat room says, that I don't like that strategy. Teams should play their game wherever they are. True.
Yes.
Up to a certain point, but the problem is that in Major League Soccer, you're not able to just impose your will on another team. There's too much equality across these teams.
The rectangle of parity.
Yes.
There's not what you don't. The Galaxy don't dominate any other team in the league so much so that they can just enforce their game plan. They're going to have to. Wiggle room. There are going to be other teams that have strengths that the Galaxy are going to have to account for. So yes, and ideally in a perfect world, you want to have a style, play that style all the time. But the mark of a good coach and a good team is being able to adapt to the situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to the next one, and let's see. Barry is in the light now. Says, do we have any jam or tam left over? Jam or Tam left over to pick up attacking reinforcements during the next transfer window? Should we bench Leggett and allow him to come on in during the second half? There's a lot of Leggett talk. On the Jam and Tam, though, I can give you an answer. Nobody knows. And it's not that we don't try. We haven't seen salaries yet.
It's also gone quiet, because when they had money to spend, you heard Dennis DeClosa talking about, we have money, we're still going to bring players in. He's been kind of quiet, or at least the Galaxy haven't been putting him out there.
I mean, the transfer window's close. What are you going to do?
But at the same time, he could be saying, we're looking to strengthen this team, in the summer, and once the transfer window opens. So it's been kind of quiet. So that tells me there may not be, a lot of players coming in. If there is, it may be a reinforcement type player. You're not going to see a difference maker come in.
Yeah, I think that the big thing, for me, sort of is that it still feels like Dennis has a move. I feel like it's a move. I don't feel like it's multiple moves. Now, it could mean that somebody's going, and that could then result in somebody coming back in. It could be that he's
playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers.
Yeah, that was a Bruce Arena thing. Don't. Dennis is not on Bruce's level yet. He doesn't get to use the chess.
All right. I said it. Dennis didn't say that.
Yeah, he's, come on.
But if he does, and I see your point, maybe he brings someone in for next year, for the next couple seasons, and he makes that move now, and you kind of make it work. You may not be happy with a player that departs now, but you look down the road, he's looking for the what's going to help this team in the next 3-4 years, not just this season.
Well, now let's go to Leggett. Then the question about Leggett: should Leggett be on the bench? And here's my thing: is that if you put Leggett on the bench, who are you bringing in for him, and are they better than Sebastian Leggett? And my answer is that even as Leggett has not played very well this year, and I think he's learning where his position is, because you certainly see him trying to do different things. In my own living room, I was critical of Kobe Jones and Joe Totino. talking about there was one play, I think it was the first half, where Sebastian Lletget was running forward with the ball. He had space in front of him, and Zlatan had dropped back off the top line to receive the ball, and he ended up being like 5 yards away from Lletget.
Yeah,
and like
they ran into each other, essentially.
Yeah, basically they ran into each other, and Lletget was like passed him the ball and then stopped to move back into the center, and Zlatan played a ball like he was going to continue running. And they were critical of Sebastian Lletget for not continuing his run, but I disagree with that. I'm critical of two things. One, Zlatan Ibrahimovic for asking for a ball when Lletget is running in space.
He does do that, on occasion. He'll drop back and try to play that 10 when he's not getting the service he wants. So I get that to an extent. So you're right to a degree there.
So that's one thing. And then two is I'm critical of Sebastian Lletget for passing the ball to Zlatan when he's in space. And don't pass it to him.
I think that's where they were going with it, is because this is an accumulation thing with him. Sebastian needs to rejuvenate himself. He kind of needs to get his mojo back. Galaxy History, one of our favorite accounts, posted a goal from him from 2015 where he did a step over, did a turn, and took a one-time shot. I mean, that's what made the Galaxy fan base fall in love with him, is he had a little razzle-dazzle, the confidence. Right now it seems like he's trying to pass it at every opportunity. We're not seeing that lethal finishing touch from him, and I think that's what people want to see. And granted, yes, we want him as a playmaker and to set things up, but it seems like he's taking that role almost too seriously.
I know.
And so that pass to Zlatan, it's not that it was, a terrible idea in the play. It's just he didn't need to do it in that moment. You want to see him have the confidence and kind of get his mojo back. The fact that there's a men's national team call-up, maybe this will be a good boost for him. Get away from this Galaxy team, get away from, kind of whatever atmosphere is going around that's affecting him. Let him get some confidence in a different area. Maybe he'll come back. But at the beginning of the year, I was higher on Lletget, but right now, I'm not seeing it. He just seems to have lost a little bit from me.
Well, and here's the thing: people are saying, do you bench him to send a message? If you think he's not working hard, then I would say, bench him to send him a message. But he's working really hard. Yeah. I mean, it's just not. He has nothing to show for it. Yeah. I don't like his side to side movements more than anything. I like vertical. I like up and down, and he tends to get near the top of the box and then go sideways.
But he used to be able to go sideways with a little more, ability, a little more.
Right.
He's going sideways, and it seems like he's running into things. He's not having that I'm trying to find the words for it, but he's not getting around players like he used to. And part of that could be the injury. He is, he that was a major injury that he's coming back from, and that's going to make anyone tentative when they go up for tackles and they're taking players on.
Yeah, it's just, again, I think that you don't want to discourage Lletget. If he's tired, then give him a break. But you really just want to keep putting him in that position, and he's not going to play in the center of the field anymore. That's Fabio Alvarez's spot, so he's playing out wide right now. I mean,
when Alessandrini went out, you knew that Lletget, that's where you were going to need him, and that's where he's played in the past, and he's shown success there. So, of course, you're going to try to utilize him there. So he seems like he's still trying to play that midfield triangle, but now he's being asked to do something different. So he's adjusting.
I don't, you would hope that you would see something out of him, like you said, get called up, hopefully to the U.S. men's national team for him. And that could jumpstart some things and sort of do that. Let's go to another question from CoG 92. I don't know why I said that in a Western accent. I was like cowboy.
Reddit's a funny place.
It is. Well, Wild Wild West. He's this person, don't know who it is really. Imagine it's a guy, Cody. Having Steres play right back and Romney center back was an odd move, knowing Steres' right back performance last year. I see Steres much more as an only center back player than Romney, but what does GBS see? GBS saw a whole bunch of defenders and some spots, and he said, go play. I felt like there was fluidity throughout the entire back line. They were shifting. I mean, Steres blocked a goal, and he was definitely playing in the center at that point.
Yeah, that was not from a right back.
That wasn't from right back. So, I mean, they moved around a lot, but the bottom line is that all those guys can play all those different positions, so you weren't making anybody uncomfortable sort of moving one outside. One would fall in, one would tuck in back behind. Shelvik stayed out pretty much wide left. Gonzalez tried to stay inside of him. But there was lots of switching there, which could go totally horrible.
Yeah, we've seen it go wrong in years past, and I think that's why there's the hesitation when you put Steres on the right side. But they're interchangeable, and we've seen it with Pipo and with Polenta as well. They've played on the outside back position, and they've done a serviceable job. So I think this is a good thing. You have three center backs who can drift out, to the right or the left and make things happen. So like I said at the beginning, these are just starting positions, and of course they're going to shift, and it's going to be fluid, and they're going to make things work. So I understand the hesitation, but again, Daniel Steres hasn't showed anything that you can't trust him this season. You have to give him that benefit that through the first set of games, he's been solid back there.
Yeah, it'll be again. I wonder if Bruce Arena values him.
It's an interesting question.
Wonder if Sebastian Lletget or somebody like Dave Romney, or some of the
these are all guys who are familiar with Bruce.
Wonder what Bruce is going to do this summer, which is interesting because
do you have insider information? You have
I don't
glean in your eye.
I don't.
I don't like this one bit.
It's sort of just in my little light bulb. Little light bulb. It's like whenever you're in the shower and you're thinking about the different galaxy formations. What do I do?
That's what I do
all the time.
That's what you think about.
And you're like, oh, well, maybe you could do this.
Okay.
Don't know. But anyway, that was interesting. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Galaxy Fan 89 says, earlier in the year you said Dennis DeCloso was open to coming on the podcast. Any chance he makes an appearance soon? Maybe. I know.
That's a definite maybe.
That's a definite almost. Maybe. Possibly. If you've noticed, I haven't had a whole bunch of guys on the podcast this year, so we're still trying. We're still working through that. Let's see. Somebody asked, I wouldn't mind you guys looking at how many different configurations of the back line there have been this season and what combinations have and haven't worked. I mean, look at Romney. 1 start, 1 shutout. He actually has 2 starts, 2 shutouts.
Yeah.
Dave Romney comes in, nobody scores. Kevin Baxter is going to get a Dave Romney for president shirt here pretty soon.
Die on that hill.
He's going to die on the Dave Romney hill, which I think is, hey, this podcast has a soft spot for defenders, has a soft spot for probably domestic defenders like Omar Gonzalez and AJ De La Garza. Whenever Sean Franklin, Todd Donovan. I mean, this podcast was built on those guys' back right there. And so you're talking about Dan Steres and Dave Romney. I mean, that's right
bread and butter over here.
That's Josh's wheelhouse right here. give me some defender love. But no, it's all fun. Listen, there's been a ton. They all have worked and not worked at one point or the other. I think the thing we've really shown more than anything, and it's not just a cop-out, but you have Araujo can play. I'll tell you this, I wouldn't play Araujo and Traore at the same time.
We saw what happens when you play them at the same time.
Right. You can play Felcher and Shelvick at the same time. Mm-hmm. You can play Pipo out on the left. You can play Pipo in the center. You can play Pipo at the right. You can play Dan Steres in the center.
You can play Polenta on the left. I liked Polenta out left.
It wasn't horrible.
Yeah,
he got tired though.
He got tired, but you see the service that he's able to put in. He sends a great long ball. So having him out left, putting service up front, I think that's a good spot for Polenta, especially when you have 3 center backs playing well. Someone's going to have to shift at some point.
Yep. It is. It's always good. All right. Let's see.
An email question as well.
Oh yeah. Okay. Go give highlights. Highlights.
So basically, it's the fact that they were still 3rd or 4th in the Supporter Shield standing, and they asked themselves, "How is this even possible?"
Who is this?
This is again Philip Rivera. So again, not Philip Rivers. I initially read this. I said this guy really likes Dignity Health Sports Park, hanging out there. But Philip Rivera basically said, the Galaxy either win or lose, and there's nothing in between. Is there anything to that? And we kind of glanced at it earlier. Six draws is the same as 2 wins. So do you feel better about winning? I think mathematically you're better off trying to win those games, because if you win a few of them or half of them, you're going to end up with more points if you draw. So that may be GBS's style, is going for the win, and you're not going to win all those, but in the long run it might work out.
This is the Dave Denholm argument. This is the Dave Denholm, because he said he would always say, whenever he'd been on this podcast many times, remember, diehard LA Galaxy fan. Dave Denholm, he would come on and he would say, why doesn't Bruce try to win on the road more? Because if you try to win, even if you lose, but you win a couple more games, you get more points than if you draw.
Mathematically, it makes more sense.
It just, there is something, and this is one of those things where analytics and I all of a sudden go into this deep vortex of like swirling around going, but the numbers say it'll work, but my head says it doesn't work all that time. That sometimes knowing when to go for a draw is a smart thing. I mean, look at the Galaxy in Colorado. Was going for a draw eventually there at home. Would have been a bad draw, but is it a worse loss? It's a worse loss.
Yes.
But there would have been still, the same furor would have been reached by everybody with a draw.
Yes, absolutely. We drew to the last team in the league.
But you would have had 1 more point. And that 1 point is more important.
Is 1 point going to make the difference? And the other interesting thing is, you say mathematically it makes more sense, but they've done studies on what's the home field advantage, and it's not really the stadium, it's not the players, it's the referees.
Right.
So it's having the home fans yelling at the referees. These referees are human. They're going to make calls based on how the crowd is reacting to them, and that's really where the difference happens. So you do have to factor the human element. You could say mathematically and if you put it in a computer, but these are all humans who are playing the game, and they're going to have different factors. So you have to approach each game differently.
I agree. You want to do this preview? You want to talk about New England?
Sure.
Are you ready for a preview?
Am I doing a thing?
I don't know.
I take notes. Some people say I went a little bit overboard. I'm not supposed.
Who said that?
Not supposed to prepare for it. My daughter.
You're talking.
She's 6.
She's 6. She's like a little over the top there,
yeah,
Dad.
It's the funny story behind these is, if you have a child who's under 10 years old, they basically live on YouTube.
Yes.
So to earn some cachet at home, I say, hey, Dad's on YouTube if you want to check that out. And she's not going to want to listen to, go in the deep dive of the Dave Romney and Dan Stairs talk. Right. So, he played the funny preview, Dad being a little silly, and she thought it was hilarious, the Game of Thrones one. So, came home, last time I did one of these, hey, you want to see Dad's preview? Sure. Play it. And she goes, nah, that was a little bit too long and it wasn't very funny. So those are the notes that I get at home.
Wow.
No love.
That's
no
tough.
love.
That's tough. They say that a positive comment that you get lasts for about a minute or two.
Yeah.
And a negative comment you get lasts for about a month.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, she's in your head. she's doing good. All right, if you're ready,
I'm ready.
Then we can go ahead and get this going. Hold on, let me move this over here and do that right there and tweak that. No,
letting
okay.
the nerves build here.
I want you to screw it up just once. So maybe I could do one again. That would be fun. All right, here we go. Dramatic preview: New England at the LA Galaxy.
Lakers, Celtics, Red Sox, Dodgers, Patriots, Rams, Revolution, Galaxy. Only one LA team has dominated the Boston-Los Angeles sporting rivalry, and that team is your 5-time MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy. The rivalry continues this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. at Dignity Health Sports Park as the boys from Beantown, accompanied by our beloved Bruce, look to stifle Zlatan and this streaking Galaxy team on Pride Night. If you were to place your bets on the Galaxy winning this game, I'd say that you are wicked smart.
Wow, wicked smart, huh?
Have to throw a little Boston.
You want a little.
I didn't want to go overboard.
You didn't.
So I kept it a little shorter this time. Yeah, I
took the notes.
Went with the Boston-LA rivalry. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah. Well, is Bruce going to be there?
Don't know. He's
underselling it. He's going to be there.
When asked, they said, "Hey, Bruce, are you going to coach this game coming up?" And Bruce goes,
"It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense."
Bruce goes, "I always coach."
Even when I don't coach, I coach. He's like the most interesting man in the world.
It's Bruce. And so a little behind the scenes, Panda calls me. He goes, "Did you hear Bruce's comments?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." So he read them to me and stuff like that. And he goes, I go, "Yeah." I go, "That sounds like Bruce." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But I kind of feel bad." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, I thought we had something special here with Bruce, that like he was only like being a smart aleck, to all of us."
Bruce is Bruce.
No, I'm like, no. That's Bruce. Bruce has always been Bruce. It doesn't matter who he's talking to. You could be talking to some fans, and he would be a little bit of a wise guy whenever it came to it. So, very interesting stuff. Again, LA Galaxy face off against New England Revolution coming up on Sunday, June 2nd. Now, Wango Tango.
Yeah, that's right.
June 1st.
On the field. When I saw this, I said, maybe they're doing it, on the tennis stadium or making it work, but the stage is actually on the ACB side right in front of 121. So there's going to be something on the field, a concert. Taylor Swift's going to be there, 5 Seconds of Summer.
Okay, so like you had me at Taylor Swift, and then you added 5 Seconds of Summer, and I'm like,
those are my guys right there.
I'm going to have to get my T-shirts out. And we're gonna.
So I'm curious what the field conditions are going to be on Sunday.
Screw the field conditions for a second. $170 gets us there.
We may or may not have been looking at floor seats available.
Well, the closer the better.
I was going to say, we know some people at AEG in the front office. They might be able to have some tickets fall off a truck. Have Josh and the Hammer at Wango Tango.
5 Seconds of They just understand me. They get me. That's the whole problem. Their new single out is getting. Anyway, back to the game. So they will be on the field. Yeah, it'll be interesting. A lot of times what they do is they lay down like a plywood or some sort of barrier.
But that's going to affect the field as well.
Is it going to be slippery? I don't know. I get the weather's supposed to be good, so that's all good news. There's not supposed to be rain or anything, because then now you're really talking like it could be a mess. But Wango Tango on Saturday, and that's
why the game was originally scheduled for Saturday, and it got pushed to Sunday. So that's the reason why it's moving. So we're gonna get to see how the field looks once they take on Carl's Gills New England Revolution.
Yeah.
We're looking up some stats here.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know who these people are.
It's not a good sign.
So whenever I remember, so the LA Galaxy facing off against the New England Revolution in MLS Cup, so 2014. And I went and talked to one of the fans. Now, this is a guy who sits down in Section 108 and who I had known for a very long time, and who had been there for MLS Cup wins in 2011, 2012. And so he was asking me before the game, and I'm like, oh, New England has a pretty good team, blah blah blah. And he looks at me, he goes, "Who are these guys?" He goes, "I don't even know who they are." He goes, "They're not going to beat the Galaxy." He goes, "It's impossible. I don't know who they are." Right?
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. I mean, you have some guys on here who obviously you recognize.
Yeah. Teal Bunbury, Juan Aguadello. So these are the recognizable names. When you look at the stat sheet, it's Tejan Buchanan and Carlos Gil. So it's these aren't household names. So the fact that the New England Revolution isn't exactly setting the world on fire with scoring goals or winning games. So it's not like these are breakout stars. It's just this is the best that they have, and it's just some interesting names that you might not know.
I would say that there's a reason that they lost their general manager and head coach, and now have Bruce Arena in
Brad
there.
Friedel.
Yeah.
Speaking of accents,
By Brad Friedel. Yeah, I was going to say it's always been an interesting case of. Did you know there's an actual medical condition where people who get hit in the head and they change accents?
Yeah, I've heard about that. Didn't Madonna have that? Doesn't Madonna have an accent?
I don't think
now?
she got hit in the head. I don't think that was the reason. But anyway,
you can't prove that.
One of the things you have to watch here is that Matt Turner, the current goalkeeper of the minute, I guess, for the New England Revolution, got a red card against DC United. They drew 1-1 with DC United, but
tried to kill Wayne Rooney.
Yeah,
jeez, what a tackle!
It was a denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. A little dog so there was also a serious foul.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Welcome to America, Wayne Rooney. Jeez.
Yeah, so Matt Turner got a red card in that, so that means he's not playing. Now the interesting thing is that Cody Cropper, who is the guy who had more games.
I was going to say, if you go to revolutionsoccer.net, again, great website. Glad that the New England Revolution.
I feel like New England's going to win because
we keep piling on.
Who are these guys? .net
but Cody,
address.
Yeah,
yes.
Cody Cropper leads the stats in the goalkeeping category, but he actually hasn't even been on the bench in the last 4 games. So it's been Matt Turner who's got the starts. Matt Turner now with a red card not starting. So you look at their third stringer, who was their second stringer, Brad Knighton. So if you look to the Colorado game and you're worried about this, you say last place Colorado came in and they beat the LA Galaxy. New England can do the same thing. Colorado had Tim Howard. So whatever your thoughts are on Tim Howard, he's a world-class goalkeeper. At some point, he has some skill. Here we're going against a second string, possibly a third string goalkeeper and a weak team. So you feel a little bit better about this game, if that puts it in perspective. If Zlatan can make Tim Melia look silly, imagine we could do against a second or third string goalkeeper. So I feel like there's no real excuses here. They're not going to have a Tim Howard. They don't have a legit goal scorer. So I think we can see the Galaxy win big. We finally get our blow off the brakes of a team win. And that might be 2-3-0 for them.
Minus 17 goal differential.
Yeah, that's not good.
They've allowed 32 goals and scored 15. That's the worst in the league. By 3 goals, it looks like. Yeah, by 3 goals, worst in the league. Minus 17. So there's a lot of things. The bottom line is we don't know if Bruce is going to be there. Bruce is actually on the sideline. Did these guys get a boost? Yes, they are going to get a Bruce boost. All right, that's going to happen. How much of a Bruce boost do you get though?
Yeah, but if you look at, I guess there's a few holdovers from Bruce. Who's a holdover on the roster? Because I don't think anyone in the Galaxy would care.
Leggett.
Yeah, Leggett, Stairs.
Juninho.
Yeah.
Stairs. Yeah. Romney was there. Boateng. Was Boateng there? Or did he come
Boateng was involved in that era.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I don't know that the Galaxy players, if that fires them up at all, I don't think there are any ill feelings towards Bruce. So I don't know that it makes a difference. If he shows up, it just adds to the drama and the story of it. And I think he's going to show up because Bruce is just that kind of guy to throw a monkey wrench in the plans. But I don't think it makes a difference to the on-field performance for either team.
3-8-4 for New England, by the way. 0-4-3 on the road. So no road wins, which is, of course, Colorado territory.
I was going to say, we are really digging the grave here.
Here it comes.
You want to go to 538?
Yeah, what is 538? Oh, 538 is going to be like 70% chance. No, they never go that high.
538. They did go 70% when they played Colorado.
So it's not that high.
So it's not that high. Galaxy have a 64% chance to win, 19% for a draw, 17% for a loss. Second time they've done this. Highest percentage to win of all the weekend games. Atlanta over Chicago is also at 64%.
Right.
Last time this happened was Colorado. So I understand you want to be cautious about this, but I think this should be an easy win for the Galaxy.
Let's see. 1 win in their last 7 games for New England. The last time they won was 5-11-19, so May 11th versus San Jose Earthquakes, a 3-1 win. Their last loss was a 5-0 whooping by Chicago in Chicago on May 8th. They have been playing a little bit better if you look at what it is. So there's been a little turn already.
Yeah, whenever you fire your coach, you always get a little bit of a boost. See Colorado.
But they're going up against David Bingham, 5 shutouts on the season. Bings.
Big game Dave.
Big game Dave Bingham right there. Yeah, so it's interesting. All right, so what's your chance?
I want to say, big win, but I think it's a 3-0. Just handle their business, 3 goals. Could be a hat trick from Zlatan. He could have his way with this New England defense. I see an easy win.
I'll have to do the math. The Galaxy are at least over 180 minutes of scoreless soccer that they've played so far in terms of keeping people off the board. So going again, making it 270 plus, whatever it was for the previous game. I don't remember. I have to look to see exactly when the goal was scored. But 270 minutes. Listen, it gives the defense a ton of confidence. I mean, you saw it in the KC game that the guys were actually playing to hold the shutout.
Yeah, and the more the game went on and you saw Kansas City have opportunities, it seems like the more opportunities KC had, the more strength and more confidence that gave the Galaxy, because they knew these guys are throwing the kitchen sink and they still can't get it. So, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's the Kevin sink. Not the kitchen, the Kevin sink. Thank you very much.
Kevin kitchen.
The Kevin sink. All right. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's where you have the LA Galaxy getting ready to play on Sunday. This is the last game before that international break.
But what's your prediction? Did you throw a prediction?
I know Galaxy last game before the. Let's see. 2-0. It's not going to be flashy.
Okay.
It's not going to be flashy.
We're not going to get the big win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it could be 2-0. It could be 7-0. All right. I mean, they could win.
Yeah, could be 7-5.
They could lose.
Go something ridiculous.
They could draw. It's definitely one of those.
You're playing that game again. I don't like this. Moving on.
No, I think they win.
Yeah.
I think they win. I don't think it's going to be flashy. I think that New England probably gets a pretty good bounce from Bruce showing up or not showing up or being in a box somewhere and looking down upon them as Bruce does.
Waving to the millions upon millions at the diggity.
Doing it from his box up high with the little Princess Diana wave, that was that type of thing. So no, I think that's interesting. I think this is the best chance. The Galaxy looking to close it out with 3 wins, going into the international break. You don't play basically for 20 days until MLS play until you get back. So all this just builds confidence during that break. So whatever you can do, as long as you can make it emphatic.
Yeah.
Even if that means winning in the 90th minute, have something that is like pumping you up and it's going to carry you over and get it done. I think the Galaxy should win this. I mean, we get into shoulds and cans and all that stuff. This is a win they should have.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's one that if they don't win, they're going to look back at. And, we did this last season. Missed points, dropped points. If they don't win this one, this is one we're going to look back at.
All right, there you go. LA Galaxy playing 7:30 p.m. That's right, a p.m. game on Sunday, June 2nd. It's a school night.
Hey, Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah, it is.
So you'll be able to enjoy the game.
Spectrum Sportsnet is where you can find a Dignity Health Sports Park. And, of course, it is Pride Night as well. So that's always a fun night.
That's true. We didn't touch on that
No, we didn't.
But it's always a successful event when the Galaxy throw Pride Night.
It's always a good time. So looking forward to seeing everybody out there. I think that's about it. You have anything else that you want to get to before we're done, or are we done?
We're done.
I feel like we're done.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, good. Let's see. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at GISHammer. You could also hear me on the Guys in Shorts podcast. Find them at Guys in Shorts Pod. And let's get me to 600 followers on Instagram with a professional foul. So that's on Instagram at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right, make sure you follow Eric there. Always a good follow. I enjoy it, at least. I don't know if anybody else does. It's just me. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our game previews, our recaps, all the news that you need to know right there, cornerofthegalaxy.com, including these podcasts and all that fun stuff. You can figure out where to subscribe to all of our stuff. Just look at that subscribe button or follow us on our live shows and click on that live button on Thursdays at 7. All right, I think that about does it. Galaxy versus New England on Sunday. We'll be there. Can't wait to see everybody out there. Drive safe. Have a good weekend. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.